Hello, good morning. My name is Dr. Abhijit Pandya. I'm the founder and CEO of Pandya Arbitration Global. Today we'd like to say congratulations to our paralegal, Mr. Joel Limoti, who spent 2 years with us at Pandya Arbitration Global doing litigation of broad different types and assisting with recovering money for international clients throughout the world. Joel is from Ghanaian descent, and we've had some rather interesting things we've been talking about with respect to what's happened with the coronavirus, but also in relation to diversity in law firms and in business in general, which of course I actively believe that a diverse and broad range of backgrounds in recruitment based on merit will give different ideas and different perspectives on problems that and challenges that we face as businesses. More interestingly, perhaps, is about processes, how we have processes built into institutions in order to deal with inherent prejudices we've had generationally put into us. And most of us, although we like to think we're fair, do have hidden prejudices, not necessarily racial ones or religious ones or political ones, but on nuanced aspects of what they like and don't like, and sometimes these guide our conclusions, often in the right and wrong direction. One of the things that we've found interesting as a firm is that we've had people from African backgrounds work for us, and when they're dressed in a suit coming to a law firm in London, the police still stop them randomly in train stations for no apparent reason. And rather than sort of throw a huge protest upon this, I think the reason for this has to be looked at more carefully, and I believe it's to do with the way processes are put in place for training in relation to stop and search exercises done by the police. Now, the first problem you have with potential racial stereotyping on stop and searches is the police are seen by some people as the arm of the state. The state is put there by the democratic majority, so they feel the world is against them because of that exercise of power. And that's something that we need to empathise with and understand a little bit more, so that we can start to think about what processes we could put in place in policing to reduce this kind of deliberate or non-deliberate targeting of particular types of individuals based on certain characteristics. And one way to do that would be a sort of template guide to the police codes of practice, which effectively allows them to review whether a particular arrest or stop and search of an individual could be exercised in a potential way that could be seen to be racially stereotyping of that person. Where there is a score between, say, 1 and 10, and that stop and search power being used at a particular place, a particular time, with that particular individual could be seen as a form of stereotyping. If that comes high up on that scale, because of the randomness of it and the unjustifiability of it, then that could be a warning to perhaps not exercise that power in that given instance. But that sounds a bit abstract, so let me give a more practical example of what I mean. Sometimes, I've seen the police do this, not out of any deliberate attempt to be racist in any way, but because they're just trying to be expedient with what they're having to deal with. Sometimes I see them look at people because of their colour of skin or their appearance or their tracksuits, which in some ways is lazy policing, because you want the police to catch the particular suspect who might or has committed a crime, not some generic person that looks like X, Y, or Z. And in order to do that, training has to be given much more specifically about looking at more individualistic characteristics of a person, rather than broad brush, brown shoes, long trousers, and all the rest of it. And this goes to another problem about what is effective policing in terms of catching the right person, and also policing which is effective and builds social harmony and trust between the government exercising that power of policing and the various communities that they seek to solve, rather than creating distrust and a divide. So I think that the kind of processes that need to be put in place, rather than just the broad brush legal, is there a reasonable ground for somebody committing a crime, but a more specific set of guidelines, now that the Police and Criminal Evidence Act in the UK, for example, is in place for over 30 years, but has been left, using pretty broad brush language and not that kind of specific language that would allow the police to really be forensic about why they're exercising any powers to detain somebody or stop them from their day-to-day job. I think simple things like that can have a huge impact on the way that communities and people perceive people are treating them, particularly with regards to a modern, recent history, the last few hundred years, where there is an inkling of mistrust between different types of communities in societies, where in the world we're increasing amounts of diverse populations because of movement of people and movement of capital between countries. So that's something that we thought we'd point out. And what we can learn from that is that, you know, if you want a truly diverse workplace, much like your policing, then you've really got to rigorously think through the kind of processes you put in place in order to walk back your own intuitive prejudices. But of course, the first step in doing that is to recognise that we're all flawed as human beings and we're not perfect, and we all do have certain prejudices, rather than blanketing over those and ignoring the debate altogether. Thank you.